Welcome. 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 I am Larson, Professor Larson. This is going to be my guest, Will, for this video. This is going to be posted on the Objectively channel, I think. That's most appropriate. Yeah, I think so. So this is basically episode 3 of Objectively. Yeah, it's been a while. Had a hiatus. Some geological events prevented us. So here we are again. So I thought we'd just take some time and have a brief discussion about what's going on.
Just about what's going on? Just generally?
Maybe some other stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
I love that.
So I have some talking points here.
The war in Israel.
The war in Israel, that's at the bottom of the list.
Okay.
The top here, I just thought I'd go over a word, and then I looked up the definitions earlier. And then we could probably just talk about the word or take it as far as it'll take us. And then wherever that ends up, if it's a dead end, I got another talking point, and we can just fall back on that. So to prevent dead air as much as we can. So how are you feeling today, Will?
Me? Oh, today is great. Today, for me, is my day off of work, and that means it's a great day.
What do you do for work?
My work? Well, I'm an engineer at at Gulfstream Aerospace, where we make private jets for very wealthy people and for corporations.
Now, you personally met Jeff Bezos, is that right?
Well, I met him and his family, and we took an afternoon together, and we discussed all sorts of different business ideas, strategies. Yeah.
Go on.
So he's actually really down to earth. He's got a great family.
He's not down to earth these days.
Oh, wow.
Anyways,
wow, so
joke, yeah. So that's cool. That sounds like a hard job, being an engineer, honestly.
Being an engineer?
It's not that hard, but it sounds like boring.
It can be.
What's the most exciting thing?
The most exciting thing
about your job
is when my boss tells me I did a good job.
What about when your boss tells you to go home early?
Ooh, that never happens.
Happens all the time.
So my company is really great because usually you're either hourly, so the number of hours, you have to be there a certain number of hours to get a certain amount of pay, or your salary, meaning it doesn't matter how many hours you do, you get the pay you get no matter what. But I'm in a really fortunate situation in which we are salaried, but we also have to work a specific number of hours. So we get the worst of both worlds. We don't get to go home early, is the point.
Money is good, is the takeaway.
Yeah, have to get that 40 hours no matter what, and I'll get the same pay no matter what.
I couldn't agree more. All right, so I guess we'll just go with our first talking point here. You've probably heard of this before. Philosophy. Yeah,
I've heard of it.
Yeah. Before we go into definition, what do you think of when you think of philosophy? What do you?
That is such a such a
broad
concept.
Try and put it in as few words as possible. Just the general once over. Just what do you think of when you think of? When a homeless man runs up to you in the street and just screams philosophy. What is your first thought?
It's you trying to answer questions that are seemingly unanswerable. Maybe something like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
The definition I looked up for, and I paraphrased some of these, but it's basically the same thing. The study of nature and knowledge, reality, and existence.
That's a better definition.
Yeah. And then the definition online on Google, I think, was added, especially in the context of academia, disciplined academia.
Interesting.
Whatever that means.
Okay.
I didn't add that part because I don't know what that means. I don't really care.
Just in school, university.
I would say, I'd probably say philosophy is the pursuit of knowledge in whatever knowledge you're pursuing. It can take different shapes and under different
Well,
contexts.
the distinction that you have to make is between science, because I don't think science is philosophy, right?
Okay.
Science is different. So how do you distinguish the difference between philosophical questions and scientific questions? Because they aren't the same, right? You wouldn't say they're the same. So that's why when I
They
said,
definitely bleed into each other.
I mean, but they're different though.
Well, I mean, everything's different. Like, they
But philosophical questions are different than scientific questions. And the way I said, trying to answer questions that are unanswerable is me trying to distinguish that. Because if I ask, how fast does a horse run? That is not a philosophical question. That is a practical, technical, scientific approach type question. But versus a question like, what's a philosophical question? Why are we here? or who made all this?
Well,
Or
I think
what is right and wrong?
Some scientific questions might have began more philosophically, and then as time goes on, we've conducted more reasonable, more objective ways of looking at things and measuring ideas.
Yeah.
Until we,
I'll definitely say they're
Resolve.
related. They're definitely related.
I
with
think
each other.
there are you can have scientific questions that have philosophical implications, and you can have philosophical questions that have scientific implications.
I would agree with that for sure.
Not always, but I think just the idea they bleed into each other. That's what I would say. I think. I don't know.
That's fair. Well, I was exploring this topic once about what is scientific and what is not, and one factoid that stuck in my mind is that there have been so many questions, even philosophical questions, that existed in the past that were able to be answered through scientific study,
Analysis.
and there has never been a scientific question that has been able to been answered through philosophical measures. Never.
Well, I think also once you cross that threshold of beginning with a philosophical question and then being able to measure and observe and conduct experiments with for a problem or an idea or question, then it just automatically becomes a scientific idea. It can't return back to the philosophical
That's right.
roots because now it is
That's right.
established as science.
The implication is everything at its root has a scientific foundation.
Yeah. Eventually, everything is gonna become a scientific idea.
Bubbles down to the
Or I guess everything is already.
Yeah.
I guess,
Philosophy
yeah.
is just us not understanding the science.
Well, you can't understand the science without the philosophy. I feel like.
It opens the doors to science. Right?
I feel like
Opening the doors.
I feel like the beginning of humanity's self-awareness or even the development of consciousness started with philosophy, and philosophy is such a diverse topic that you can have an idea or a question that's so simple, and it almost sounds ridiculous how simple it is, but it's still philosophical because you can take that question anywhere. It can lead to a conversation with someone that can last hours and hours, that can spread into so many different diverse topics that you never would have considered with the initial question.
Yeah, I would say philosophy is able to open doors of science. It makes us ask questions that we care about, and we care so much about them that we start putting numbers to things and starting to organize things in cohesive ways, which starts entering into the
Green is
scientific
1,
realm.
blue is 2, yellow is 4. Just
Or
connect the dots.
could measure distances. You start
Exactly.
measuring physical objects. You start measuring things in real life, trying to answer the philosophical question. For example, why does it rain? Probably was a philosophical question before we understood
It's
why.
more of
it
a spiritual
rained.
thing at one
Right.
point. Yeah,
It was like
the
They
rain
would
god.
think dancing had correlation with
Hey,
rain.
sometimes it works.
Sometimes-
So there's got to be some connection.
I mean, just justifiably, they didn't have much to go on before that, right? So they used to be like, if we please somebody somewhere, then they will make it rain.
Yeah.
Back in the day, that was more of a philosophical question before we understood meteorology.
It's the same idea with prayer and religion. It's it has a 50-50 outcome. If you just pray about everything all the time, and eventually stuff happens, and you attribute it to prayer.
I think it's called confirmation bias.
Uh-huh.
Because if you think it's true and it comes true, that's way more exciting than when you pray for something or hope something and it doesn't come true, you're just like, oh.
I mean, it is pretty
I ignore
exciting.
that part.
You mean it's less exciting when you do the math and determine exactly when it will rain, rather than just praying and hoping for it to rain, then suddenly it appears.
Well, one is more reliable.
But one is more exciting.
Oh yeah. Praying and it raining is like, I didn't even have to do any math.
Man, I
it rained.
remember the days when I was a kid, and I would pray for some random, like, I want, Domino's pizza or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, I'd find a coupon in the mail, and I'd be like, oh, Jesus,
Yeah.
gee, Christ is King.
Yeah, that's that confirmation bias.
And it felt so good.
Mm-hmm.
And I miss it sometimes,
Dude,
But,
there's lots of benefits of being of that mindset. It
sure.
makes you think.
I mean,
The world is a lot more simple.
in terms psychological benefits, more.
Mm.
More, I would say. I mean, who knows? Yeah, so we're talking about philosophy and questions. And questions I have here. Definition, a sentence worded or expressed to elicit information.
What
Would
is
you
the
agree with
question? A sentence made to elicit
a sentence worded or expressed so to elicit
I
information.
mean, that sounds pretty right.
Very, very informative. I would say that in conversation between two or more people, there are many ways to exchange knowledge and information. Here, I have the definition for communication. I didn't write the definition for conversations because it was basically the same as communication. Exchange of information or news.
Wow.
Communication. And communication is like a means to exchange information or news using language, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would say
Communication.
a lot of philosophy. Maybe is the wrong way to say. Like questions. There are many ways to express or exchange knowledge or information, and I think asking questions is one of the best ways. There's many ways, but I think it's one of the best ways, and it's definitely my personal favorite way.
Of asking questions.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it sounds so simple, like, duh, I ask questions, and what do you mean? Like, to elaborate, I mean, like, ask as many questions as possible, and even if you even asking the same question over and over again in different ways, I think can elicit so much more and reveal so much more information that was not previously expressed in the conversation
Right.
prior.
Okay. So let me push against that.
All right, absolutely.
How many questions are too many questions? Maybe you should just shut up and just figure it out by yourself.
Oh,
Do you ever think about that?
yeah. I guess.
Is there ever a limit to the number of questions that you should be asking? At what point should you be self-conscious about the number of questions you're asking?
Well, you should always be self-conscious about everything. Be ashamed of who you are. In the words of the Greek
You're
god.
asking the same question over and over and over again.
If you're asking the exact same question, word for word, syllable by syllable, every single beat for beat, over and over again, then something's wrong. Change something. It doesn't have to be large, but it can be large.
Okay.
As far as that'll take you, change something about the initial question. If you're getting stuck in the conversation, if you're in a rut, if you don't feel like it's traveling as far as it could be in terms of ideas, just try and tweak the question.
Tweak the question every time you ask it.
Obviously, tweak a question that has already elicited more conversation already. So, a question that's been established to be interesting or hard to answer. Now let us tweak that question just a little bit. Okay, what's a different way we could do that?
Because I'll tell you, I've been in situations where I feel like I'm asking too many questions. And sometimes it's because they've explained the thing I'm about to ask them already again because I forgot. Or the thing they explained was so complicated that it's hard for me to remember all aspects of it.
We're only human.
We're only human, but they're only human too. The people answering it are only
their
human.
fault.
Well, I'm saying eventually they're going to get annoyed with you. And then you have to be cautious with the way you're asking questions.
I'm not talking in terms of
asking a person.
Well, you're. I feel like what you're saying is more like an interview, almost like.
Let's say job training.
Who is in what position of?
I'm being trained. Let's say that. It's hypothetically, right? Hypothetically.
Being trained to
do a job.
Okay.
And my job has all sorts of different things I have to remember and do and figure out. And then I go to my boss and I keep asking him questions about what I'm doing. And then I'm like, oh wait, I already asked him this question, but I still don't remember the answer.
But I feel like that's so normal because in a job you're being introduced to so many new ideas at once that it can only be expected that, you know, there's one or two things that you need a refresher on.
It's true.
When I go to a new job, every single job I've ever been to, the training process has usually been some form of, there are no wrong questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask as many questions as possible. We want you to learn as fast as possible. If that's the process that gets you there faster, then absolutely is no shame in that. And then I ask like one question, and they're just like, "You don't know this already?"
Exactly, my point.
And I don't think it's an error of the process. I think it's an error of the training. There is not. It's not.
Well, the training is the process.
The process of me retaining information from, I guess just learning information.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, does the process start with them training me or me learning the training?
Ooh.
Chicken or the egg?
Chicken or the egg?
Yeah. I mean, when you work for a company, it's different. There's not really any room for philosophy at all in any way.
Yeah. So philosophical, thoughts and discussion, I think are really only a product when you have enough time and energy to waste.
Which is like
it's very.
Which is like what we're doing right now.
We're not making money right now.
we're
kind of wasting.
We're losing money right now.
This is pure waste. This is a waste moment
of
our life. We're never gonna get back. We're never gonna get this moment back. Can you believe that?
It's all my fault.
Time goes on,
but I love it. That's one of the best parts about it.
It's enjoyment.
You can just throw away time and make mistakes and ask and have the same conversation over and over again.
That's right.
But through that process, it's like a filter, and you eventually can retrieve something a little bit of information. It's pretty valuable.
Mm-hmm.
It took a long process to get here, but I think in the end, it's very enlightening and relieving, and I think that's an experience that most people should have at least once in their life. It's
of thinking about philosophy.
What's
the experience you're talking about?
I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Don't say the wrong thing.
And then it's on camera and I contradict myself.
This is permanent.
Yeah, that's true.
Can't reverse this.
Ooh, let's get naked.
Oh.
Yeah.
Blippy, looking at you.
Language.
Blippy did scat porn.
Who's Blippy? Oh, you mean Clippy?
Nope, Blippy.
Who's Blippy?
He's a famous child entertainer. He has his own TV show. He has a.
Let's save this for another video.
It's on Netflix.
Scat porn for a child. What?
Well, no, he did that before he was a child entertainer.
He's going in for a job.
There's a video of it.
He's going for a job interview. Like, we just have this one question here we want to show you. Do you know? Is this you in the scat porn?
They forgot
Mr.
to ask.
4-year-old. That was I'm a different man now.
They forgot to ask the question. It's real and it's there, and he entertains children.
Okay.
He's a very famous entertainer.
Thank you, Will, for that. Language. I have language written down here.
Oh, God.
What do you think of language before I give the definition? What do you think?
Language is very great. I think of language as meaning the methods by the means of which you communicate. And language is, I was just reading a book and they're talking about language a lot, about how the way your language is structured can change the way your society thinks about things. Like, if you were just born into a different place that have a different language, you would think about things very differently than if you're somewhere else with a different language.
That's interesting.
And yeah, so language is extraordinarily complex and important.
I think it's important when distinguishing between ideas that you're trying to express,
Mhm.
is the language can determine how that is received. I feel it a lot. Not even just language from like, different, like Chinese to Korean to English to whatever.
Yeah.
Like in English, there are so many different sects of ways people talk,
Right.
where you can say the same idea in different ways, and it'll come across differently enough, which is interesting. Like the way you word something, or the could be the slang you use, or the
emphasis on words.
the emphasis.
So let me ask you a question.
Context. Yeah.
Do you think the world would be a better place if we all spoke one single language and all other languages were discontinued?
Well, what do you mean a better place?
It's whatever you think a better place means.
The TV show Better Place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The good place.
Do I think it would be a better place?
Think it would be better communication? Would it be more unified? Would it be less?
I think I
miscommunication?
can think of benefits to it, absolutely. But
Yeah.
I think the diverse languages we have presently on Earth now has benefits also, because there are different languages. There are languages that have concepts or ideas that are complex that they fit into a single word. It's very interesting. There are languages where the combination or the placement of the words in the sentence can completely change the meaning of what you're saying,
right,
by a subtle, like, little, anything like the pitch of how you pronounce the word. And I think that's really, really interesting. I think that opens the door to new ideas, new methods of communication and expressing ideas and knowledge.
So, but what if we took all of the best aspects of all languages and all unified it into one? Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Would that
again,
be better?
like I said, I can definitely
should
see
go-
benefits.
do
A
that.
lot of benefits.
Wow. Want to cleanse all languages? That makes
Let's make a
sense.
language right now.
So, one person said to me this one time about this. They said, if we were able to achieve that somehow, we were able to do an unbelievable push and use all these resources to make sure everyone on the whole planet speaks the exact same language right now, for some reason, what would eventually result is all those different people on the planet in different regions and different subcultures, they would eventually develop their own dialects in their own parts of the world that can't reach other parts of the world.
Good
And
point.
those dialects would eventually transform back into different languages.
I like that.
And it's kind of pointless to try to force a single language
Well,
across
okay,
the
but
entire
then all
planet.
these languages would be rooted in one language.
Sure, but it's not. But it would still be eventually different. Eventually, you
Like-
wouldn't be able to communicate with somebody else.
have you what's the language? I'm gonna blank on it. God, it's not French, and it's not
It's not French.
German.
We're not gonna talk about French. The romantic, like
I want to just spend a lot of time thinking of it so I can remember it now.
dead air.
No. Yeah. Well, there's one language. There's plenty of languages, like even just like Spanish. Like there's so many
Wow.
words that are similar to English.
That's
that
true.
Almost
Makes it easier to communicate. That's
definitely.
true. But we still
But,
you
no,
can't have a conversation with
but
them
they're-
just because they're rooted in the same language, right? You
I've
have
heard-
to learn the other.
I hear sometimes I've heard like the Latino people talk, and I can hear the words they're saying, and I'm like, that kind of sounds like one word, like a couple words I know in
Another
English, but there's no way that it's that simple. Like, there's no way I know what you're saying just because it sounds similar.
I mean,
like, that
sometimes
sounds like the
it's
exact opposite of what should happen. And then I'll look it up and you're like, no, that's exactly what the word
Yeah,
is.
yeah, for sure. Like
It's because we're
sometimes
rooted in
because-
Greek.
being rooted in the same language definitely means it's going to be better more likely you're going to start being able to
I
understand
want
each other.
to think about like what like if you tried that, you tried to take all the language, you tried to just make one universal language for
Yeah.
everyone on Earth. Like how long would that take, and what would that be like? Would you all right? You, that guy, you gonna be in a room, and you know however long it's gonna take, make this language now, word for everything.
That would be-
Everything. You know, multiple words for the same thing if it's a different color. And like just like you know, I'm just saying like cover
That doesn't
cover
sound like
cover
a good thing.
all bases, nothing is left behind. Think of, you know, everything, every idea.
Well, you have to see. That's the other thing is there. I say you take all the best aspects of all languages and put it together, but that honestly can't really happen because the more, in my opinion, the more complex the language you make it, the more detail you can have when talking using the language.
Absolutely.
But the more complex it is, the more complex it is.
Yeah.
The more difficult it is to understand. And more difficult it is you're going to be able to learn it, and it's going to be more difficult in every aspect.
Yeah.
Bigger typewriters or whatever, you know. So, you know, it's a trade-off. There isn't a right way to make the language. It's, do you want it to be more complicated and more detailed, or do you want it to be simpler and less detailed? You can't have both. You can try to be in the middle, but again, it's just, well, what if I want to be more detailed? Or
Why don't we just
too complicated?
Why don't we just, you know, bite the bullet and have telepathy already? I mean, what's taking so long?
Elon Musk, we're watching you.
Neuralink.
Where's the Neuralink? I
Yeah,
want it now.
that's the only thing we're gonna say about you, Mister. Yeah, I think telepathy would be cool. I think
love that.
I think ideas would. I think like you'd be able to communicate ideas faster. Also, it would
Absolutely.
almost be like a download. Like, I have this essay. You want to read it? Sure. Boop. Wow, that was really interesting. I got a lot of notes.
I mean, if you could literally like read a whole book, like, I mean, we're talking about the Matrix now, where you could just
So?
download a whole. I'm just saying, like,
Get
it's
into
a
it.
good idea. I like the idea. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Let's
I
think
don't
of the
know.
implications of the idea.
Well, I definitely like that on Mars Express,
Mm-hmm.
that movie where she just walked up to them and they were laughing, and she's like, "Oh, what are you guys talking about?"
Well,
and she's like,
yeah.
"Oh, let me let you in," and she pressed the button, and they were all in a group conversation
Yeah.
in their mind, and she could
But
listen.
they were
to
still
it.
speaking like
That was awesome.
English. They were still speaking.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It wasn't telepathy, really. It was like on a Skype call. You know.
No, I would definitely call it telepathy.
Okay, yeah, you're communicating ideas, but I'm more thinking of a more like advanced concept. Like, you know, you
Yeah, if you
go
could
up to someone and
communicate-
shake their hand, and you can read their mind, and it instantaneously.
If you could communicate like a life's amount of information in like one moment, that would be
Well,
that'd be interesting.
I think
That'd be
I think
interesting.
as the generations of people have gone on, like I feel like children are a lot more educated at a younger age too. As the generations go on, like I think kids today
100%.
who are young, who I remember being their age, are really smart and know a lot of
Really?
ideas. At least compared to when I remember I was their age, and I'd be
100%.
like, how do you? I didn't even know that till I was like so much older. How do you,
So-
why are you so smart? This is making me angry.
So let's talk about data storage for a
Okay.
moment here. So I was reading this book and it was talking about how data storage is the metric that has allowed us to prosper as a species. Data storage, because long for millions of years, the only data storage device that existed for all of life's existence was in your skull.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only method to store data. There's no other method.
Pretty unreliable sometimes.
The second we created the written language, or any form of written language, we now invented the new version of data storage that is external from our brain.
Yeah.
And that external data storage is what allows next generations to be smarter than us.
That's true.
Because we are now communicating our life's knowledge to them, and they can read it instead of having to go try all of the plants in the garden and die while eating all of them. They
Yeah.
can be like, oh, this one's the poisonous ones, don't
Mhm.
eat these ones. But before,
my buddy Greg ate a ton of those. Didn't
Dude,
turn out too well.
every generation had to relearn everything.
Yeah.
There was no path, except for the word of, even before the word of mouth, when we were actual primates, there was literally every generation had to learn everything from the bottom up. There was no transfer of data between generations. Once we started transferring data between generations, we start to become exponentially smarter, because every generation after you is going to be smarter than every generation before you, because they have the data you're leaving behind. So now, obviously, we see the benefits of it, because we had the books. That was great. We had the tablets before the books, and the books were a really big deal, big fad. And now we got digital data, and now the digital data is being transformed into AI that's using the data automatically to use it more intelligently. And so the exponential curve is here.
Well,
guys.
what,
This is what it looks
I
like.
was saying initially with that idea is, I feel like with every generation,
They're smarter than us,
they're smarter, but they,
as they should.
they're
be.
getting caught up on information quicker than previous generations too. Like at younger ages, it's getting younger and younger. Slowly but exponentially, simultaneously.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I feel like that just keeps going, and eventually symbiosis with technology occurs at some point. It's going to get to a point where a baby is born, and at light speed they're caught up to date with as much required information on human history or STEM subjects, or
as much information that is available. They'll know all of it all at the moment.
And it's gonna be a bunch of smart babies, and then they're gonna grow up, and then they're gonna have all this time in their life to learn about other things now. Because I feel like the majority of my life up until now has been getting caught up on everything that has happened in human history up until or a history of whatever matter and stuff. And it's like if I went back in time into my 5-year-old body now with how much I got, oh my Lord, Mamma Mia, I would learn so much. I would. That's the idea. We want to be able to store that data in a very accessible way that makes it so our next generations are going to be able to get that information that much faster every single time. Strange, because then there's going to be talks of okay, well, these babies are now as smart and as qualified as any other adult for these extremely trivial job positions.
If we want to talk more practically, I don't think babies would ever be able to do that, because babies are not limited by what data is in their brain. Babies are limited by the ability of their brain. They cannot think
5-year-olds
like an adult.
5-year-olds.
5-year-olds are not capable of thinking the same way as an adult.
But eventually,
once they're an adult,
information keeps getting, and not only is this process occurring across generations where they're getting smarter, they're learning faster, they're learning before previous generations would have learned this similar information. But information, the whole life cycle of information and communicating information naturally has a way of condensing itself. So if I find that the people who are really intelligent can take an idea that is complex and they have studied it or observed it for long enough that they understand it on a level where they can now communicate to me the idea in simple terms.
Interesting.
Yeah,
being able to simplify an idea is
absolutely.
It's really a sign that you fully understand it.
And there's so many ideas that have started off very complicated, and then someone condenses the idea. Okay, so what are you having trouble with with understanding this idea? Well, I don't understand why this is this way or this is what. Okay, well, basically the way I understand it is this, and this, and it took me 50 years to get there. And now here you go, and here's the answer. You're like, oh, well, that's really interesting. That makes me think of another application of this idea. Like, oh, really? What's that? And then that person expands the idea as far as they can, and then where the 50 years of their life they condense the new understanding and new applications of the idea into maybe a single sentence or something, and then they can communicate that in simple terms to the next generation, and on and on and on. So the natural life cycle of information and the exchange of information is to be condensed and simplified.
Yeah, so everyone
evidently.
else can be better able to access it.
Yeah. So I see there's Noam Chomsky. He gives a lot of speeches about linguistics and how he's like, people like me and my age who study things like linguistics or philosophy or even mathematics or anything like that, our entire lives up until this point has been trying to communicate these ideas in a way that other people, like all of you listening, will understand. And that is a lot more complicated than you would think it is.
Interesting.
But yeah, so
I mean, at the end of the day, how valuable is an idea if no one can understand it?
Exactly.
It's meaningless. It's
Right.
valueless. And I was also talking about there's this other book that was talking about the concept of datism.
Ooh.
There's a prediction that they say datism in the future is going to be one of the few religions that exist that is not really founded in anything supernatural, but it's essentially the religion of valuing data for the sake of data. And you
Hey, elaborate.
you think data is important and it should be preserved, and you want it to be spread as far and as wide as many people should be able to understand the data, and processing that data, you want it to be processed and to be understood by more and more people. And the value is not in the people, but the value is actually in the data, in the processing of the data.
Well, yeah.
And and it's basically a religious idea. It's like it is a fundamentally good thing to make
Do you
and
mean
process
like
data.
the idea of having faith in data or evidence?
I mean, it's not faith. It's just you value.
Well, I mean,
data.
you say religion. So.
Yeah, because there is no real value in data. It's that you just want that it's valuable to you on a personal level, and it's just you want to make that your important part of your life, and that data processing and data spreading of data over many people, and making sure that data is preserved and exists forever and is going to surpass people. That is the value that should be installed in people. The value of data. We should value data.
Data
Not because it's objectively valuable, just because we think it's valuable.
I mean, it's definitely good for some stuff.
Datism. I'm
Definitely.
a datist. I follow the datist religion.
Like racist, but it's for data.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But we like data.
I can get down with that.
Yeah. The alternative is techno-humanism. And techno-humanism is...
That sounds like a fun word to say.
Oh yeah, techno-humanism.
Techno-humanism.
Which is essentially...
Sounds like an album, like the name of an album.
One day. Daft Punk, I'm sure. Techno-humanism is, instead of putting the value on the data, you instead put the value on humans. And you want to integrate them with technology. And because you want humans to be better, and you value those humans, and you want them to be as happy and as prosperous and as strong and as capable as those
little
humans
bias.
physically be.
A little bit.
Well, it's not bias, it's just you're saying you value humans. Just like
What if I value technology more than humans?
Well, then you're not a humanist.
Yeah.
So then you're not in the techno-humanism.
Well, what if I'm just a technoist?
That's a different religion. But you could be a datist, think data is the most important thing. You could be a humanist, think humans are the most important thing.
What if data is more important than humanism?
Then you're a datist.
So, I guess I didn't misunderstood the concept of dataism. I thought you were saying like humans would value and like worship data, but
No, datism is you care about the data, not the humans.
yeah,
You want data
if
to
there's no
exist.
humans around to care
Well then,
or to give it value,
or maybe I misremember. Maybe it's not just the data itself, but the processing of the data. You want the data to be processed in whatever way it's going to be processed. Meaning that if humans ever all died, we want to make sure there's something here to replace us that can continue processing.
data exists whether we observe it or not.
That's right. That's why it was probably processing the data is what is valuable, not the data itself. Because so that's why if we ever leave and the whole world is absent of humans, we want to make sure that AI is there to replace us so they can continue processing the data.
Makes me feel so much better.
Well, if you're a true datist, then you would feel better about it.
That's what I do then. So good.
Good. You follow the
Happy.
datist religion. Thank you.
Yeah, I think AI could be like that. Maybe it'd be a religion.
Oh, I would love that.
AI
That'd be
God.
Yeah. I mean, did you ever watch Raised by Wolves?
No.
Dude, I must have told you to watch this before.
I'll watch it.
I
I know you have. I know.
I think I told you the premise of that. Right?
I've been caught up on.
Well, there's a part where there's an AI God.
Oh, okay.
That's a big part of the.
Well, that sounds
season.
like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where they created the thing, and they're like, "What's the ultimate answer to the ultimate question?" And they're just like, 42, dude.
That's part of it. But in this world, they it's a society that they all basically follow this AI, and they don't ask it philosophical questions, but they ask it every practical question that matters to them. Like, what should we do? What food should we eat? Yeah, but it's right every time. It's never wrong. It's actually in the show, the answers are never wrong.
Is anything 100%?
In this movie, this is
in real life. You personally, what do you think? Anything is 100%?
100% what? That's the important part of this question. 100% true. There can be truth. There can be 100% true truth.
Objectively speaking.
Now, are we going to perceive it to be certain as 100%? Which is a different question.
Well, that sounds like a cop-out, though.
No, it's just a different question. One question is there absolute truth? The answer is yes. Second question, can we perceive something to be 100% absolutely true? The answer is no.
Like if I asked you, do you think bananas are green? You're like, no. Or I guess they are green sometimes. Blue?
Oh, you want that to be a bad example?
Do you think bananas are blue? And you would say no. And I'm like, well, do you even know if you can perceive it the right way, though? Really?
Well, this just bubbles down to, are we in the Matrix or not? Because at a fundamental level, you could question everything. Because you could always just be in a Matrix. You could always be a brain in a vat that is just floating around, and you don't realize what the true world is around you.
Hell yeah.
So all these things that we think are so obviously true, you can always fundamentally question the very nature of, well, is reality even what you perceive at all? Is it true? Are we in the Matrix? Are we in a brain in a vat? And that is something that can never be proven or unproven. So you can never know something with absolute certainty. But
now you stop me from trying.
You can totally try, and you can know things better. You can get closer to being certain, but you will never be 100%. But that doesn't stop from that truth existing at all. There is truth. It does exist.
You're speaking as objective truth.
From an objective outside observer, truth exists. But from a person being in the universe, I could never know something is true with 100% certainty. Because there's always questions that can be answered. No matter what, you'll never know everything about the universe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a problem I've had before thinking about do objective truths exist is, they could not exist, and you're just like,
no, they have to exist.
What do you mean they have to exist?
Well, if something exists.
Do you know that for sure?
Yes, Descartes. I think, therefore I am.
Well, that's still an opinion, though.
No. I think, therefore I am is the only... Honestly, that's like the only absolute truth you actually can know. Because you think. Therefore you exist.
Do I think?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know.
Are thoughts going through your head right now?
I have no idea what's happening
at
any time.
How about that? Do you perceive?
I hope. I
hope. You do. You are experiencing.
I do the best I can.
You perceive. You have feelings. You feel things. You have senses that you're sensing things. Now, are all of those lying to you? Maybe. But something is there that is sensing. Something is there that is perceiving. That is how you know you exist on some level. Now, maybe I'm a brain in a vat somewhere, but I still know I exist. It is logically impossible for me to not exist. I think, therefore I am. That's Descartes. Smart guy.
So, thoughts exist.
Yeah, right? Objectively, they exist. Like, I'm perceiving them. They can't not because I'm perceiving them. Okay. So those thoughts definitely exist, without a doubt. Now, what medium are those thoughts in? Those could be up to, Matrix or brain in a vat or a dream even. How true are those thoughts? Maybe they're not true at all. But the thoughts are there. You can't deny that. The thoughts definitely exist at a fundamental level. So I think, therefore I am. So that's really the only truth that is 100%.
Someone who's brain dead in a coma, are they there? They're not thinking a lot.
So I think, therefore I am. Specifically uses the word I think. Therefore I am.
So you can't say for someone else.
I can't say for someone else. I can only speak about myself. You might be a robot. Everyone might be a robot around me. You all might be fooling me. But I'll go along with the trick because it's a good one.
Yeah, it's fun.
But I definitely know I exist.
Sometimes pranks are fun.
Sometimes
pranks. You wake up in a vat in your brain and you're like,
it's a prank, bro.
You got me.
I would love that.
Must be Friday night.
See that higher level.
All right.
Universe.
I guess we should see how much time it's been. That's good.
45. You got plenty of time.
All right, I have a few more talking points.
That was a good.
Yeah, I like that. Do you have anything else to add? I don't want to jump out of it if you're comfortable.
I think that was pretty good. Yeah, there's truth exists. We'll never know, and except for I think therefore I am. But maybe who knows? Maybe there will one day be a philosopher that figures out.
We are not experts at anything except except talking out of our asses.
Yeah, this is all for the fun.
Professor Lars.
All for the fun of the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I don't know.
Like, I think therefore I am was a concept that didn't exist at some point. No one realized it.
Before that idea existed, I guess we don't exist.
No one before Descartes understood that concept, and then
guys,
we
don't
figured
you
it
just
out.
feel like we don't exist or whatever?
So they're like, maybe.
Oh man,
don't.
there's this great video I want to show you when I get my phone back, and it's these dudes who are like smoking weed in the car, and they're like so high, and they're just like, dude, am I real? And then he looks to his friend, and he's like, I think. And then Rene Descartes just comes into the car and he's like, that's actually some solid element. He's like, Rene Descartes!
Exactly. I love that. But the main point is, it's very possible one day a philosopher might think a thought that has never been thunk before, and we might be like, oh my god, you figured out.
Is thunk a word? Let's talk about that first.
Well, I just made it a word.
Thought has never been thought.
Never thought
before.
before.
You said thunk, bro.
Well, it's my past tense.
Permanent forever.
Making it a past tense thing.
Establishing it as slang.
So
right,
maybe there will be a thought that's never been thought before, and they'll figure out another absolute truth that I never thought about before, and something.
Can't wait. Maybe we can do it. Maybe we'll do it.
You better stay tuned.
Maybe you will be the one.
You better watch all these episodes to figure out if we do.
You'll never know until then. Unless you get to the very end of this video, you'll never know.
Well, you gotta keep watching the other videos too.
You gotta watch all the ads.
Yeah, you gotta watch the ads and the movie reviews.
And you gotta read all the comments.
Maybe there will be a philosophical.
This is great.
Maybe there will be an epiphany in one of the movie reviews.
I'm gonna write that
Who knows?
Yeah, philosophical. What the hell?
Oh, why didn't we name our channel that? That would have been pretty good.
What's stopping us?
Okay, we can delete all this stuff.
Start over
with a new name.
I like that.
It's early enough to still do that.
Philosophical. That was good. Whatever.
It's early enough we could still change the name. We can still do it.
Alright, so. Truth. I wrote truth down. And it is underneath honesty and above uncertainty. And that's the order in which I wrote them on the page.
Is the order important?
No.
Okay.
Why would you? Why would you think that?
I pointed it out, so.
All right. So yeah, and I also wrote vulnerability, which we can talk about separate. But
vulnerability. That's a really different.
The
other three are like very.
I just wanted to acknowledge it in case you read it and you're like, wait a minute, what's that? I'm just saying, it's there.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Vulnerability.
Unless you want to talk about it now. But yeah, truth. So what would you? What do you think about truth?
I feel like we kind of already been digging into that.
Me too. I think we already did. But in conversation.
Yeah.
With another person.
In conversation.
Especially when talking about philosophy, or it's not like I ever go into a conversation and you're like, all right, guys, now this is when we start talking about the philosophy now. So everyone, just be aware. It just happens naturally, right? It just, I mean, anything could be really classified as philosophy if you, if you break it down far enough.
All words at their core are arbitrary.
Absolutely, all words are made up. Yeah. And I think along with asking questions is one of the most efficient ways at exchanging information in a conversation. I think being honest is also very important when discussing philosophy, or when if you want to have an objective conversation that really gets down to the roots of ideas and possibly blossoms new ideas or new
Yep.
kind of problem.
It's a good.
I'm
word
a
to
delicate
use.
flower.
It's a good word to use.
God, what was I saying?
You should be honest when talking about philosophy. Is your idea?
Honesty is a tool almost. You know, it's like I think I talk to people sometimes, and I feel like in conversation they're not being as vulnerable or as honest about their response as they could be.
Okay.
And if they were, it could open up the conversation to all types of new conversations.
Yeah.
That if they never are, then it's really limiting themselves and the
Right.
whole, and the flow of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's reliant on honesty, I feel like.
Yeah.
And with that, sometimes being honest or giving your honest opinion can sometimes be a little controversial. Sometimes.
Oh yes.
Yeah, sometimes more than other.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important to just be willing to be vulnerable in certain situations in conversation. And to
Okay. Let me push back against that. Let's say you're in a society where if you say your honest opinion, you'll be killed.
well, that's a society where I assume they're not having a lot of philosophical conversations about stuff.
They might. It's very philosophical.
Maybe.
That's just not agreeing with your philosophy. You could be in a religious extremist cult where they talk about philosophy all the time,
That's true.
but they don't want to talk about your philosophy, or they don't. You're just if you're honest with the way you think about their philosophy, they're not going to let you talk about it very much.
Like I like to think I'm a very honest person. I at least try. I'm
good.
only human. I lie all the time. I lie to your face like multiple times a day.
That's fine. That's fine.
But yeah, I think being honest is not only honest to other people, getting deep here, being honest to yourself too about how you approach ideas and what you think about ideas and your own opinions. Because it can be hard sometimes to be thinking, on your own about ideas and trying to dissect it in a objective way. But then things, might prevent you, like obstacles, like morality, for example, or
Fear.
or insecurities, or things like that. You have to be willing to, in order to be good at philosophy, if that's even a measure anyone can accept, being good at philosophy.
Right.
It's not really a wrong way to talk about philosophy.
Unless you're doing it dishonestly.
Unless you're filming and putting on YouTube for
money.
attention.
For money. Disgusting.
What was I saying? In order to be good at philosophy, I think you
should be honest.
really need to be honest. Practice being honest as much as you can.
So I really think because I'm not a very religious person, but everyone, even those who are very religious, have to admit there are many religions in the world that they don't believe in, right? So there are false religions. No matter what, you can agree that there are false religions. And when you consider a religion that is false, you have to consider the fact that when people are in that religion, for a person to leave a religion, you are potentially losing everything in your life if you leave a religion, depending on how integrated you really are into it. Because your family may be following the religion, your friends may be following the religion, you might have people you work for who are religious in that religion. You may have so much of your life integrated into that religion that if you leave it, your life will fall apart. Not just oh, I don't want to choose to think a different thing. No, you're going to have to find, your family might not talk to you anymore. Your friends might lose. You might lose your friends. You might lose your job. You might lose a lot more stuff than just changing the way you think about life.
You might lose your car keys. You never know. Anything's on the table.
Anything. On the car keys on the table.
Ugh,
And
really awesome.
so that plays into, you might be dishonest with people around you. Because if you're not, even though you don't believe in the religion that people are talking about,
it's for
you have to lie
your own benefit.
because otherwise your life will come crashing down and you'll have to completely reinvent yourself from the bottom up, and who wants to do that? So, I wouldn't shame someone who does that, because I would want to. I don't want to lose my whole life just because of, actually, you guys are all wrong, and you guys should really think about.
Have you guys heard of Rene Descartes? I don't know if.
Yeah, did anyone consider?
I don't even tell you that
all
ever.
of this stuff is wrong.
Did anyone ever tell you everything here is wrong?
Did you guys ever consider that factoid?
Yeah, we did. Well, you're still wrong.
Yeah.
So I would love to expand on this. This is probably going to be the section of the video where we're going to dive a little bit into religion, just for a brief moment.
Spoiler.
If you're uncomfortable with that,
Trigger warning.
get out.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. Close your laptop.
Skip to the next section.
What's the problem? And unless you're driving and listening to this, in which case,
Man.
you're stuck with us. Buckle up. Literally. Get it?
Wow. Click it or ticket.
Religion. So when you leave a religion, or if you consider leaving, I think it's really interesting to think about someone who's deep in a religion and genuinely believes it themselves personally, has a relationship with God, and has a natural inclination to question, what's going on in the religion, or whatever it is, maybe in the Bible, or whatever it is. I'm thinking more of traditional Christian values and stuff, things, and it can be very hard to just naturally accept that you are questioning the religion, because the religion the idea of questioning any of it, even for a second, might completely go against the ideas of the teachings in the religion. And it's interesting because it's so sad to think about, because I feel like so many people are held back in a way because they're naturally have curiosity and questions and things, like every human being does, and they have thoughts about their own religion because they're not stupid, and they're thinking, well, this thing's a contradiction, or that's interesting, I never thought of it in this way. And there's this mental block that has been ingrained in their mind to not follow those ideas out of fear that it'll contradict their religion, and they'll and the punishments are already not great. It's hell and eternal suffering on top of that. But on top of that, you have to accept and be vulnerable and be honest with yourself that you are an intelligent person and you're smart, but you let yourself, I guess that's the wrong way to put it, you just believed this thing for not really.
You felt duped.
It's embarrassing. It's
you felt duped. You felt tricked, swindled,
and it's like I know people who have convinced other people to join religion, and it's like to then take a step back and be like, oh my God, like, and think critically for once, or not for once, but to finally give into these critical thoughts, and to accept that I am an intelligent person, and I deserve to
be able to
question
think those thoughts.
And it's sad because religion, I feel like, really, honestly, what religion does is encourage you not to ask questions, which I said earlier is like the foundation of being good at philosophy and conversation, and that is just so sad to think about.
Fundamentally speaking, religion is called religion and not science.
It's called faith
for a reason.
Is what it is. Yeah.
So what is the fundamental difference between religion and science?
Evidence or
I would argue religion and science are polar opposites of each other. And the difference is the fact that religion, the process, well, let's talk about science. Science, objectively, is the process of thinking of a potential answer to something, experimenting, gather evidence, and then deciding if your conclusion was right, if your idea was right or not, and trying to make a conclusion based on the evidence that you have. A religion
being
is
willing to be wrong.
being open to the evidence. You're basing your ideas on the evidence. Religion's polar opposite in that you are basing your evidence on your conclusion. So you already know what the answer is. Whatever the final, you already know.
What's the point?
Now you're going to determine which evidences are valid based on your conclusion. So Noah's Ark, right? They know the flood happened. It's not a question of if the flood happened. The question is what evidences support the flood, and those are true because they support the flood. Which evidences go against the flood? Those are the false ones. So they're basing the conclusions on they're basing the evidence, what is valid evidence, on the conclusion.
Sir, I found more false evidence. Good, put it in the pile.
Yeah, put it in the false evidence pile. So it's the polar opposite of what science truly is. You need to be open to a open conclusion and being wrong and being able to say I don't know if you're going to go down the scientific route. But if you're going down the religious route, you know the answers. You know the final conclusion already. Now it's just making the world fit into that conclusion.
Yeah.
So that's
trying to fit a square into a circle.
It could be, and that's why I think that's one of the biggest differences between a scientific way of thinking and a religious way of thinking.
Yeah. I think that's Go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, maybe that's not fair to every single religion, because I think there are some religions that are a lot more focused on philosophical thinking. Like I think Buddhism is much more trying to help you live a life that you find satisfying, rather than saying you're going to go to hell if you don't think these things. So not all religions are equal. Maybe we shouldn't be putting them all in this one big bucket.
Again, I preface it by saying I'm more thinking of traditional, like evangelical.
We are in America, if anyone's wondering. So being in America means we think of certain.
I was gonna do the swastika.
Let's not do the Elon Musk thing. I might have to.
No, I didn't do it. I didn't.
You could always cut it out though if you did it. But if we were in a different country, we might be thinking about different religions. But being in America, Christianity is one of the biggest players that we think
Victims of circumstance.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just again, like it's so sad to think about some people who are actually very philosophically inclined and very intelligent, and I've been friends with people who have I've grown up with people who
there's potential there.
Weren't exactly the most religious as younger, but as we developed in our separate ways, they leaned more towards religion, and
right.
It's just so sad because it's watching someone. It's almost like watching. Maybe this is a bad comparison, but like watching like a drug addict friend or something like slowly dwindle away. Like it's losing a friend really, because I value critical thinking and thinking objectively and being honest so much, and religion really does restrict those ideas of being vulnerably honest and objective when approaching ideas. And God, it's just so sad to think about, especially because I was in it before. Yeah. And I did think that way. And there were so many times I would think about things philosophically and then stop myself and like, oh, I guess God doesn't want me to think about that, so I'll just forget about it. And
You should do an episode where you talk about your history and just
kind
of lay out what
you were in religion, so not as much as me, but I never asked you about what did you like what was that like for you being in religion, and then I guess you have talked about it before. It's pretty brief.
Yeah, I don't think I never took it crazy seriously, but there were just some questions that gnawed at the back of my mind, and it was really after I heard a few YouTube videos and I fell down a hole of some ideas that I was like, okay, these ideas in the back of my mind are valid. They're not just me having some make-believe idea that is meaningless. No, these ideas are real, and the fact that they exist and are not being answered is a concern, and it might be means to not believe in certain ideas anymore.
Yeah.
So
I think it's interesting that your mom did send you to St. Barnabas.
yeah, I mean,
because she's very not like that at all.
well, I mean, I think her idea was just it's a good school, not necessarily it's a religious school.
Yeah, community type
Well,
deal.
it's like good quality education.
Sure.
Is the idea. Not necessarily like, yeah, sure, religion's on the side, but the main point
I
was
just doxed you, by the way. I told you a school you went to when you were a kid.
Oh no.
Oops.
No, they're gonna go find
Well,
my
hey, I went
old
there
school.
too, so I can dox myself as well.
They're gonna go find my old school. What are they gonna do?
Yeah, they'll find your brick on the ground. That's there.
Then backtrack.
And then graffiti it.
That's okay.
Maybe change your name.
I'm open to it.
Change your name to like Will.
Ooh. Don't say.
Anyway, so
we're flying dangerously close.
yeah, I live on the edge.
Yeah.
But
So, you know, I'm not going to diss someone because they're in a religion. Like I said before, there's many reasons to stay in a religion. And I've said this and I'll say this before and again. There's value in religion. There is. It's not inherently a meaningless it's not a complete waste of time or anything. There's value in it. People live their life enjoying it. People can even live happier lives because they're in the religion. You know, I think being able to not have religion and still live happier lives is more of a modern phenomenon. In fact, and I think it might, you know, I think that there'll be more and more of what happens in society over time.
I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say there were times I was very happy when I was religious. Maybe more so than I'll ever be again.
Yeah.
But because of false pretenses.
Yeah. But the point is, living what at the end of the day, do you want to live a happy life or a life that's based on truth?
Ooh.
So
balance of knowledge and
happiness.
satisfaction and happiness.
Like, who am I to say you're wrong if you want to believe something that's wrong, if it makes your whole life worth living? So
Absolutely.
I'm not going to say, you know, you need to leave your religion at all. In fact, you know, maybe this will just reframe your religion in a new light. But, you know.
Just look at things, just look into things yourself and come to your own conclusion.
If you have questions in the back of your mind about your religion, those questions are valid.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage anyone to question everything about life and themselves and, every day. I think about therapy a lot is like, I'm no expert. I'm no authority to be talking about any of this. I am a professor, so never mind. But, therapy is mostly just, as well as being an outlet to get out your ideas, which is healthy and satisfying.
Yeah.
You know, good for mental health, is paying someone to ask you questions about yourself, most of all. And it's like, and I always think about that all the time because I like to think I'm a very introspective person. I may not be, I don't know, but that's more subjective to even consider a standard for how introspective someone is. But I like to think I am, and I feel like I can ask myself
hard
questions for free.
But they might ask better questions.
That's true. You never know until you try. I have tried therapy before though, so you know I have some experience.
Might be we're trying again.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you know, people change throughout their lives,
and I've even heard sometimes you can try a therapist and it doesn't work with that therapist, and then they try a couple more and they find
that sounds so exhausting.
I'm just saying.
From therapist to therapist.
I'm saying your situation is not what I'm talking about. There are people in more desperate situations who need to try to find therapy, and if they are in that situation, don't stop if one therapist.
You know
what?
Keep going. When I started talking about therapy, and I preface, I'm no authority. I wasn't even considering people went to therapy for extreme reasons like trauma.
Let's be careful with the way we frame that, right?
So yeah, but
so the point is, if you are trying and one therapist doesn't work and it doesn't feel like it's clicking, don't write off all of therapy. That's my point. All of therapy is not that one therapist. Try a few more therapists. Try online therapy. Try whatever, you know. Just keep trying different things. Keep going. Don't.
Sure. At the end of the day, what gives you satisfaction and makes you happy is really important. Philosophy doesn't have to be the answer. Like if
happiness is the most important.
If you go your whole life, every single day, actively avoiding philosophical ideas or questions, as much as you can, and that is the one thing that brings you happiness, then definitely do that. Yeah.
Maybe that's the best way to live your life.
Maybe that's the secret, and I'm just wasting my time.
Maybe
here.
you are just ruining people's
Maybe
lives.
I'm the problem.
Maybe everyone else is right.
I mean, I'm
And you're the
not.
problem.
Objectively, I'm not. But, maybe.
It's possible you are.
Anything's possible.
Mhm.
Sort of.
Mhm.
It's fun to say
But I
it.
think
It's
the
definitely
point-
fun to say anything's possible.
Anything is
It
possible.
makes you feel tingly.
I love it. Makes me happy.
Right. See if there's anything else I have. When I was looking up the definitions, and I looked up the definition of questions, the sentence worded or expressed to elicit information. I also just looked up the definition of word, because I was like, I don't know, let's take this as far as it'll take me.
The word.
Single, distinct, meaningful element of speech or writing used with others or sometimes alone to form a sentence. And then, of course, a sentence worded to express or elicit information is a question. Yeah, I think that's interesting. I love looking up the definitions of words. I love finding weird words I've never heard of before, and looking up the definitions. And then another thing I've found that I like a hobby is looking up definitions of words that I use every day. Because sometimes there's a deeper definition or meaning to a word, to a very simple word that I use all the time that I never even consider. Sometimes I will use a word for years and years and years, and I'll look up the definition like, oh, that's not what that means.
All those people.
Oh, no.
Oh, I look like an idiot in front of all those people.
Oh wait, that's why she left me.
My
No.
whole life has been a lie.
Yeah. I don't know if I should turn that off. I hope that's not coming up in the audio. It's fine.
I don't think it would.
I don't know. We're not hearing it.
Go press it real quick. And you could cut this out of the video.
There we go. Alright. What do you think of that?
That was good.
No, the definition.
Oh, what do I think of the word? Word? What do I think of the definition of the word? Word? Well then, I think it.
And make
makes
it
sense.
at least 3 sentences long. Have your answer.
Single distinct meaningful element of speech or writing used with others or sometimes alone to form a sentence.
Do you agree?
That sounds about right. A single distinct meaningful element. Yeah, it's a single. It's one cohesive unit of a word.
Yeah.
It's just at the end of the day, a word is just a tool to communicate information.
I think sometimes like a little game I like to play is when someone asks me a question or asks okay, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah.
And just finding, like I said, I like looking up interesting words I find, and just thinking of a single word as an answer, just to,
Oh Lord.
kind of just be like a little, just like
Cocky.
fuck with them. And, yeah, but
Cheeky.
yeah,
Well, cheeky.
boy,
Mhm.
crikey, and I sometimes it's like throwing a rock into a river and creating the chaos of ripples. It's just something. It's just fun. It's like waiting for their reaction. This is what it is, and then it's just like explain. Like, what do you mean?
Oh
it's
my
so
God.
mysterious.
That sounds like a really annoying thing for somebody to do.
I'm a horrible person.
That sounds
Is basically
super
what is happening.
That sounds like I would not want to talk to you. If
But
you tried to talk to me
the
like
context of the of the situation I do this is very, very specific. It has to be very
that.
specific.
Wow. That answers it then.
Then the single word answer I give doesn't have to be as nuanced, but yeah, like when I've worked jobs before, this phenomenon happens. I think at every job I've worked at, pretty much. I've worked in food service. I've worked in factories, and whatever. I've worked at parks and stuff. And eventually you work at a job long enough, or the powers that be, your boss or your paycheck or whatever, force you to try and be most efficient at your job as you can, and every day being more efficient than the previous day. And and when you work with the same people every single day, and you all kind of find a common ground or a common understanding of this idea, and how you should approach your job or whatever it is you're doing. You create a relationship with them that really that's really interesting, where you can things can be at the highest level of chaotic or meticulous or whatever the job is requiring or needs from you, and it can be the most extreme example of what of a day at work, and I can be busy doing stuff, dealing with customers and stuff, and just turn and give my coworker a single look or a single word, and immediately and they'll understand so much nuance to what I'm saying and so much context underneath what that is, because we've worked together so close for all this time that that we understand we have to be very efficient and very quick, and so they see that I'm in a hurry or that I'm very busy and have my hands full, and I look at them and I give them a single word and I'm like, this now, and they're just like, got it, don't say no more.
Okay.
And they just go and they do it as fast as they can, as fast as they're capable of doing, and then get me exactly what I need at that time. And
in that main in that thought, I've found interesting when I watch any kind of movies related to war, I find it interesting the way they communicate in a war, like a wartime activity,
right,
during like a battle, the way they communicate with each other, because it is like they obviously are yelling at each other, but the words they're choosing to use in these times of like a battle are clearly like they're trying to bubble down the meaning that they're trying to convey to the most simple, understandable, quickest form of communication physically possible. And they're trying to not waste a single breath in a war zone. So they have to use...
Your life relies on efficiency.
They want to make it fastest communication possible, most efficient, most clear communication physically possible. They're not trying to get into the nuance of words here. They just need to get what they need this moment, or
Sergeant,
I might die.
I need ammo!
Ammo now!
But what is ammo?
Medic!
When you get down to the fundamentals...
Yeah, no.
Like,
ammo for what? It's like, no. You know what kind of guns we use.
I just told you!
You know what kind of guns we use.
Don't yell at me!
Why are you yelling? No, none of that. It is, you know the context. Exactly. You should know all the context. I just need ammo now. That's all you need to know. Or medic, like one word means so much.
Yeah.
And
a single word can save the lives of thousands of people in an instant. And it's so interesting.
Like you don't want to waste any time when you're in that. So,
absolutely.
And I'll never forget this one scene from Band of Brothers, and go watch this scene. I forget what episode, but it lives in my mind rent free because it was so interesting. They're in the war zone and they're like crawling while bullets are flying over the head, and then a guy crawls up behind them and he's their ally, but he taps him on the shoulder and he's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "I'm looking for the 4th Infantry. Do you know where they are?" And he's like, "What? We're in the middle of a war zone.
I don't know where I am."
And it's like, and so he's like, "Yeah, but I'm trying to find them." And he's like, "They're fucking that way somewhere. I don't know." And he's like, "Okay, thanks." And then he starts crawling away and he gets shot in the head. And it's like, and the guy's face after this is like, that was so
Anyways, back to what I was doing.
Yeah, that was like the weirdest experience of my whole life.
Jesus
Guy asked me a question in a war zone and then just immediately dies.
That's great.
And I'll never forget that, because I was like, I feel like that, things like that probably happen way more in war zones than you would imagine they do. It's like, not everyone's really not everyone might be on the same page in a location like that, so that's when people unfortunately have things like that happen.
And this idea of simplifying things out of necessity to a single word beckons back to what we were talking about ideas, and how some people, professors or people who study very complex topics try for years and years and years to try and simplify and just funnel all this information, cram it into a single into as few words as they can, and as simple words.
You say that like as if it's intentional. Language, there's almost no design in language. Language just begins and ends naturally through human communication. There are words that are like that, like medical terms and like new element names and like things like that, where people actually like go out of the way to try to meticulously make these words mean specific things. But most language,
those things are a little harder to simplify.
Yeah, you're not going to simplify.
It take a little longer.
Yeah, you don't. So they're really complicated words. That's why they're so complicated.
Right.
But normal,
they have to be.
Yeah, but normal language is literally always a product of slang. All language is like a product of slang of a previous language. Because I tell you, if we went and talked to people hundreds of years ago
in Greece or something
that were supposedly speaking English, we probably still wouldn't be able to communicate with them.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that English is like, we kind of understand what English is, but you talk about language like as if it's one cohesive thing. It's not. It changes every single day of the year. It's changing we add new words all the time.
Yeah.
Every year there's a new word getting added to the dictionary.
This recording of how we're talking, we could probably play it back in like 50 years and be like we really talk like that?
They sound cringe.
Man, we sound gay.
They sound cringe. And there's words that are going to be lost through history as well, just like added words. So, language is as dynamic as it can be, based, and to talk about it like as if it's one structured thing that is stagnant.
It evolves.
It's anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's so interesting. Yeah. So this is like what I said before about something I like to do is I try to like when someone asks me a question, can I answer them and express exactly what I'm trying, what I think in a single word? Like I just try. Like I'll just attempt it. Like
that's cute.
I'll give you that.
It's cute. It's a little cute.
Fuck you.
Would not do that. Actually trying to communicate.
It's fun sometimes.
About anything.
Be surprised.
What's
Surprised how many women have been impressed by that.
Oh wow! He responded in one word.
Oh,
you know the most attractive thing
to
women is them responding with one word in a text message, and just one that gets things going.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Self-aggrandizing. Yeah. Wow, I think we covered a lot.
I love this.
I love it.
This was fantastic.
I think I want to do. If I were to do this again, I would want to do more words and more definitions to write down. Yeah,
this flowed pretty great.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be a different genre of words or something.
I would like to segment maybe these videos into more topic oriented, because this is just, I wanted to experiment and just do, let's just talk about whatever.
It's pretty good.
So I think if we were to do it again, I would probably break up a video talking about communication and then find synonyms related to communication or truth or any. I mean, there's so many movies to talk about, honestly. Like, I keep thinking about movie reviews all the time, like, God, we could review this movie or that movie, and we never get around to it.
We've been backed up on the movie reviews.
Yeah, I gotta start doing them alone, I guess, which is not as interesting, I don't think.
But dude, how many? Well, I guess you watch movie reviews where people talk all the time, but whenever I watch movie reviews, usually it's one guy talking. Like
podcasts?
No. Like movie reviews.
Well, I know Chris Stuckman, but those are the most popular examples. I don't know.
Oh yeah, maybe you should look at them.
Maybe. I like Chris Stuckman.
And you could make it your own. You could do what he does, but better.
Well, I'm better looking.
That's the most important thing for an audio-based form of entertainment.
Yeah.
You got the face for radio, kid.
Yeah. What do you think I could do differently? Also, if I did this again, any comments?
I think this was good. Honestly, we need to try to do something. The lighting is pretty good, but
I made sure to do this in the middle of the day so that the sun was shining.
The lighting, the lighting is really good. I do know there might be more interesting forms of lighting that we could potentially, but that's money.
Ooh, LEDs.
You need a chair that doesn't make you look like a little child. Maybe
I'm feeling good.
If there was
some armrests,
a normal heighted table.
Yeah. Well, this is adjustable. See, I adjusted it to the chair.
Yeah, you did, which is perfect. Maybe an actual stand for your phone instead of.
No, it's on a stand. They don't know that.
Yeah.
They don't know.
But
it's a banana.
I think the visuals could be improved, but in terms of the actual topics and conversation, I think it was pretty good. I can't think of anything else off my head.
I'd love to have more guests on, more diverse.
Dude, get some guests. I would love that.
Yeah.
You could interview Jess. That'd be cool.
I mean,
Or Aubrey.
Jess is sometimes she doesn't say a lot most of the time, but then I'll have to turn her like, what do you think, Jess? And she'll have something very interesting to say about it. And I'm like, you were just holding this whole time, and you weren't gonna say anything.
Yeah.
Like,
Sometimes
what?
she'll be quiet, but in her mind, she's pretty. A lot of stuff's going on.
Absolutely, I would say.
But even Aubrey or somebody else.
Sure, I could do Aubrey or Zola or I could do Axel. I don't know I don't know about putting children on the internet, honestly.
Oh, we're not doing that. That's not good.
Who else? I mean,
Michael Phelps?
everyone Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Tom Hanks.
Oh, all the time. Tom Holland.
Tom
Brady.
Ooh.
The Brady Bunch.
We could rename this episode to The Tom Show. Get all the Toms in one episode.
Now I'm trying to think of more Toms.
Tom Cat.
Tom Cassidy? Is that a person? That's not a person, is it?
I don't know that person.
Butch Cassidy.
Butch. But I think it was good.
Tom Selleck. Okay. Yeah. I think this was good.
More people, more themed conversations.
Absolutely.
This was very free flowing, but for a more this was good for a one-off. But I think if you tried to do this like many times, you would probably start hitting dead ends.
Yeah, absolutely. I was worried about dead ends this time, this round, because that's why I wrote down a bunch of stuff.
So to make it
anytime in this
scalable.
video, you can go back and rewind it. Anytime that I refer back to the page is when I'm like panicking and I'm like, I can't think of anything to say. Let me just jump right here.
Yeah, that's what notes are for, man. But to make it maintainable or sustainable,
good word.
You have to pace yourself, right? Don't push it all out in one video. Kind of pace yourself, we're going to talk about this kind of thing here, and then segment it into a different topic here, So you have future content that you can make. Don't just use it all as fast as possible.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Closing thoughts. I'm probably just gonna turn, if this channel gets popular, I'm probably just gonna funnel all the viewership into a cult. So and then
this is how it all started.
Pyramid scheme and how to be self-sustainable from that.
Yeah.
So anyone who's watching who's interested in that, email me. And I'll give you your orders.
You gotta think about a snappy name like Nexium.
We're the objectively cult.
Not philosophical.
Damn it, yeah.
All right,
I gotta remember that.
We're gonna delete this channel, start a new channel.
So congratulations. All right, I guess that's it. And thank you, Will, for Too Slow for having this thing.
You bet. He has underwear.
No, I don't.
He's in his underwear.
Don't listen.